Exotic Game Hunters Wild Safari, brought to you by thephysicianprimer.com. Today's episode, hunting physicians who prescribe opioids.
Dr. Hope, thank you for agreeing to do this interview for Exotic Game magazine. Before we get started, can you tell us about your hunting credentials?
Yes, I'm a physician with board certification in physical medicine and rehabilitation. I practice pain medicine, and I also have a law degree, and I have experience practicing as an attorney.
I see. So you have experience both as the hunter and as the hunted.
Yes, precisely.
That gives you a unique perspective indeed. So you know all the tricks of the hunter. That must make it impossible to bag you.
Good eye, mate. Just got in from down under. Greatly back in the States.
Hold on, Sam. Let the doctor finish first.
Well, Crockett, it's really not about me. It's about why conditions for hunting pain doctors have changed so radically in the last 15 to 20 years.
Well, I don't know any hunters who can brag they have a doctor hanging over their mantle. It never used to happen. Even the best hunters, the DEA agents, just didn't have permission to go out and tag a doctor. The DEA frowned upon it.
Well, that's true enough, Crockett, but that was back in the 1990s when opioid prescribing doctors were considered an endangered species.
Dr. Hope, we have a treat today. We have a world-famous game hunter with us. Made the cover of Exotic Game 9 times in a row. Allow me to introduce Safari Sam, fresh off the plane from down under.
Pleased to meet you, Sam.
You too, mate. Just got in from the land of the wallaby. Spent all last month in Eastern Cape, bagged me a black rhino.
Isn't the black rhino an endangered species, almost extinct?
Only if they catch you, mate. Now, all I need to complete my collection is to bag me a doctor. And no offense, Dr. Hope, you are wearing some fancy bulletproof vest. What kind is it? Kevlar?
No, it's even better. It's called the Physician Primer System. Ironclad protection for opioid prescribers, impervious to all known assault weapons.
Damn Yankees! They think of everything!
Dr. Hope, I apologize for the interruption. Can you explain for the benefit of our readers who may not fully understand why you pain doctors were so protected back around 2001?
Well, sure. You see, back then, we had many millions of chronic pain patients in the United States who were suffering, and they couldn't get proper pain relief. No doctors, at least at that time, were willing to risk their license and prescribe opioids for chronic, non-cancer pain. The Federation of State Medical Boards changed all that when they drafted their position statement on model opioid prescribing guidelines in 1998 to make doctors feel safe, and so their patients could get the pain medication they needed. The government passed the Intractable Pain Act and the Pain Patient Bill of Rights to further protect doctors and their pain patients. The VA, the Joint Commission, and the American Pain Society all endorsed pain as the fifth vital sign. The Federation of State Medical Boards declared opioid prescribing doctors an endangered species in 2004, and they gave doctors immunity from being hunted so long as they followed one rule, that they required their patients to sign an opioid agreement. This nurtured their growth and resulted in a gradual increase in their population. By 2010, the numbers of endangered pain doctors had swelled, and they were thriving. Pain patients were enjoying a higher quality of life and were in many cases able to return to work and function almost normally. But then both the physicians and patients became complacent, while the hunters clamored for more pain doctor tags to be issued.
Hunting more docs. Right on. Docs and crocs. That's what it's all about, mates.
Hold your horses, Sam. Let me finish the interview with Dr. Hope. We can catch up later with some strip on the bobby and the cool Fosters. But let's not interrupt the good doctor. You may continue, Dr. Hope.
Thank you, Crockett. In response, the mandatory urine toxicology test requirement was added around 2010. Pain physicians who failed to conduct urine testing were considered fair game, and a few lucky regulators got their trophy doctors.
Crikey.
But in 2013, things really started to heat up when the Federation of State Medical Boards were asked to look into the situation and remove pain doctors from the endangered list. Opioid prescriptions were up 400%, and even family physicians were prescribing. Finally, in July of 2013, the Federation took action and issued a new set of guidelines, the Model Policy in the Use of Opioid Analgesics in the Treatment of Chronic Pain. This was a 180-degree turnaround from the 1998 model guidelines. This removed almost all the protection for pain prescribers. On May 17, 2017, they tightened the screws more with the updated guidelines for the use of chronic opioid analgesics. These guidelines imposed numerous documentation burdens to qualify for any protection. opioid agreements, opioid consents, cures and PDMP report checking, urine tox testing, written warnings on benzos, written warnings on sedatives, written warnings on muscle relaxants, opioid risk stratifications, and 4A opioid risk assessments at each visit. In short, only a small percentage of doctors now are protected, and the CDC in May of 2016 published additional rules and hurdles with the now infamous CDC guidelines for prescribing opioids for chronic pain.
Thank God for the say they say.
On August 2nd, 2017, U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions announced open season on pain prescribers to thin the rapidly expanding numbers. Now, doctors are being murdered, criminally prosecuted, and they're even serving life sentences in prison. Even the State Board of Health chairman of Mississippi was recently tagged. The past president of the American Academy of Pain Medicine narrowly escaped after a 4-year hunt by the DEA. Today, the public in general and the government no longer has any sympathy for the plight of the 100 million chronic pain sufferers. The government feels they can just get yoga or counseling and they'll be fine. But in reality, pain patients are suddenly finding themselves cut off from the only medicines that have allowed them to function. Some are committing suicide. Others are traveling hundreds of miles to find a doctor brave enough to prescribe to them. Instead, the new protected species is the addiction specialist and the doctors who utilize medication-assisted treatments such as Suboxone. The government now wishes to make treating the addicts a priority over the tens of millions of patients suffering from intractable pain.
Let me get this straight. The Federation took you guys from a protected and endangered species in 1998 to open season on you in 2017?
Yes, that pretty much sums it up.
You think there would be some middle ground rather than going from one extreme to the other?
Yes, exactly. My colleagues and I use the primer. It allows me to safely prescribe for those pain sufferers who really need opioids. And I educate all my patients with the Pain Patient Handbook, giving them an understanding of all non-opioid treatments. My patients don't suffer, and the hunters leave me alone as soon as they notice my primer flak jacket.
Wow, this is exciting news for our readers of Exotic Game. So can any good regulator hunter just go out today and bag a doctor since it's open season?
Mighty fine news, mate.
The short answer is yes. 90% of doctors right now are fair game. Those who follow all the guidelines are still technically protected, and it's still illegal to hunt them, but they are far and few between. Those doctors who follow my primer system are protected because the forms and flow sheets trigger them not to forget deadlines and documents. But precious few have heard about the primer, and most doctors don't even know they're being hunted, so they see no reason to get protected. It's like sneaking up on a deer when they're sleeping.
Or a sleeping block rhino, mate.
So your readers won't have any trouble finding easy prey.
Crikey, there goes one right now. I'm hot on its trail. Later, Crockett.
Thank you for speaking with us today, Doctor.
Anytime, Crockett. Thank you for inviting me. And doctors, don't let your license be the next casualty of the opioid epidemic. You cannot afford to guesstimate when it comes to opioid chart documentation. Do it by the book, the primer.